stream. Got it. Now I understand. It's changed. Fantastic. I can see me and I can see what's happening in here. Hey, welcome to the She Talks platform. We're going to talk about thriving and what does that mean to you? And I think that it's really important to define what thriving means to us because, it's really easy to go through life, and I know that when we kind of leave school, there's this generic ideology around what success means. So getting married, getting a good job. Oh, it's going through uni as well. All of that, getting a home, getting a nice car. That is the generic way of success that, sometimes we can fall into and not really feel like we're thriving in life. So what do I mean by thriving? Sandra, hi, I can see you. This is awesome. That's fantastic. Hey, Sandra, welcome. Great to see you here, darling. We can forget to define it. And if we don't define it, we can just sort of move along with life because life kind of sweeps us up, doesn't it? We can get caught up in things that happen in life and circumstances and just getting to work and getting through life, getting stuff done, or even just literally getting through the day, and find that we haven't defined what we really want our life to look like. And for me, that's really important. It's a really important practice. And so when I was asked to be in a book called Thriving, and it was to do with well-being, I said yes. And that happened halfway through lockdown. I got asked to be in this book here, and you may have seen me talking about it recently. And I'm incredibly proud of this book, and I'm incredibly proud of who I sit with inside of this book. I mean, there's some celebrity people in here, some renowned nutritionists and experts sitting inside of this book, and I'm inside of this book with them. And I wanted to talk about thriving, as I do in the book, in a holistic way, which thriving is and must always begin with our thoughts, our feelings, our physicality, like how we feel physically. And if I have a practice where I tap into my body. What does that mean? It means in the morning I'm kind of in a sleepy state, a meditative state, and I do it again before I go to sleep. And I just sort of be with myself. And you might try this on, and this helps me to thrive. So I'm just simply going to talk from my perspective, and I hope that you can add your practices and your approaches to thriving in life. And if you have a plan for what that means for you, like some not negotiables. Otherwise, we can get caught up in other people's plans of what thriving means, especially if you're in a relationship. I know that from my past, you've been in a relationship and you can sort of get caught up in doing their stuff, and you can lose yourself in that. This guarded and generic way of life that most people live isn't going to allow us to thrive. We'll just get through. We'll survive it, but we certainly won't thrive it. And now for me, my morning and evening practice allows me to check in with my body. And here's the thing. There are some nights where I can feel the tension in my abdomen, and my body starts relaxing, and it's kind of when you see an animal falling to sleep and it does those little spasmy things because it's releasing the tension in its body. And you may relate to this, where it's been a big day, it's been a stressful day, and you are perhaps managing it really powerfully. I know for me, it's like, yep, I got through that. I handled that really well. However, there I am laying in bed, and I've got this tension leaving my physical body, even though I didn't feel stressed or overwhelmed or particularly overtly challenged, but it's there manifesting in our physical body. And that's life. Life is challenging. Life isn't particularly easy, but it's not particularly hard either. I mean, as in, it's about your mindset. And if you've got the right mindset, you literally can face challenges, as uncomfortable as they are, and life is uncomfortable. That's what I'll say about life, is that it's definitely not always comfortable, but it can be really worth it and really beautiful. This guarded and generic way that the world tells us to be makes sense, because it's kind of like it's the solution to life's hard, and it's the solution to not being put in the frying pan. It's the solution to not stressing out and feeling overwhelmed. And I get that, and it makes sense. However, for me, that is a short-term solution, and you'll just end up running the same emotional, mental, physical patterns throughout your whole life if you don't change anything, if you don't transform that. If you keep being in that guarded, self-protected, generic, when I say generic, living out life as the world tells us, that the world informs us that it should be lived out, then we're not deeply satisfied, we're not fulfilled. And we're living out those patterned ways of being. It's just on repeat. Our thoughts are on repeat, emotions on repeat. So people go through what's called, like, I remember Anthony Robbins when he first introduced the Crazy Eight, and it's the something goes well and you feel great, and then something doesn't go well and you don't feel great. So it's kind of like, shit, why did that happen? Now my day's ruined. That's the guarded and generic way of life, where at the whim of circumstances, at the whim of everyone else's actions and behaviors. And we know with even just a little bit of personal development and a little bit of mastery over our mindset, we can get great freedom from those patterns earlier in life. And I talk about some of this in my chapter. Of course, I couldn't fit all my knowledge in one little chapter, but I packed a lot in. I rewrote it 3 times because it was so important to me to write something that was for the reader, that the reader could pick it up and anybody would get something out of this. And interestingly, and I thought it would happen anyway, but there's one thing that I know and people have been getting out of this as one fact, which is the fact that the body has a greater propensity for healing, for well-being, than it does for illness and disease. And therefore, it's just a matter of us, one, removing what hinders that, so emotionally, mentally getting out of our own way. We know what that means. And then removing any foods that don't benefit us, or any practices or any people, literally removing what does not best serve us. And that doesn't mean that everything's rosy and fantastic. I mean, there are going to be challenging family situations. There's going to be challenging things at work. It doesn't mean that we just throw them out with the baby out with the bathwater. It's not what that means. It means that we make a choice about what we believe is of value, is a resource, is worth our effort. And often family is one of those things, or work. They're often one of those things where, even though there's something about that, it's kind of like, well, I wish it wasn't there, but it is. But I want this relationship, or I want this role, therefore I'm willing to kind of overlook that. And when I say overlook it, I would never overlook anything. I'm willing to process that and get myself to a place of agreement with that, yeah, that's fine. That doesn't devalue me. That, make sure that we've got the right story around that we're not going, I want the relationship, I want this job, but I don't want that bullshit. That bullshit that happens, I don't want that. And then we're kind of building this resentment, and then it starts to play out, and then we're not fulfilled, we're not satisfied. And then we end up living this guarded, generic kind of life. what I'm talking about is knowing that nothing is perfect and people will always continue to be humans, just as we will continue to be humans. And we all have stuff. We all have our patterns that we play out. And some people know they have those patterns and they're working on them. And for me, they're the best kind of people to have in my life, because that's a win-win. We're working towards ultimately the same goal. And then I have people in my life, we have people in our life like family and perhaps people we work for that we don't have really much say about. We don't really get to do, we really don't get to say, hey, I'll take that, but not that. Yeah, in a sense, we can kind of leave the party early, right? We can leave what we can kind of take some things and not some other things. But ultimately, we need to just make peace with the whole thing. And why that's important, and I really illustrate it in here. And it's funny, I never thought, oh yeah, and for some of you, you may not know, I'm a doctor of natural medicine. I'm a certified naturopath, which is a doctor of natural medicine, and I intentionally call it its traditional real name. It really is a doctor of medicine, because we know more than a doctor. We're taught what a doctor's taught in regards to the healing process. Actually, we're taught a lot of what the doctors taught, and then we're also taught about nutrition. So we are indeed the true doctors of natural medicine, the true doctors of medicine. And I continue to use that title because that is what it is, and it's deserving of that. So I never thought that I would talk about stress as being the key indicator of triggering homeostasis to go out of balance. So homeostasis is the balance. It's the mechanism in our body that allows us to have a greater capacity for healing than illness or disease. However, there's one thing that will cause the homeostasis to go out of balance and stay out of balance, and that's persistent stress. And you can see already, with the soup of stress that we live in, and we just came through COVID, and even though mentally you might be in a good place about that, we're sort of subject to the soup of information around us, and it affects us, it impacts us. And like I said, like challenges come and I have stressful days, but they don't feel stressful, right? I only know that it was a stressful day. I mean, here's me going, oh God, this is a big challenge. I'm not sure how to do this, but come on, let's do it. And I love it, because I'm not withdrawing like I used to. I'm just leaning right into all risk, all challenge, because it's the outcome is what I want. And yet I'll lay down in bed and my physical body will start releasing that tension. Like I said, when you watch a cat or a dog, when it goes to sleep and it starts doing those little things, my abdomen is like, actually it makes my whole body sort of do a vibrate, and then I release that tension. So this is what I talk about in my chapter. I talk about stress. It's such a good chapter. Honestly, I put so much work in this, and I worked with my own personal developmental editor. She's like one of the best in Melbourne. She's amazing, Jill Marie. And I talk about stress and how to manage stress. And I do that really simply by talking about the vagus nerve and a list of practices. But like I said, you remove what's in the way of your body being able to do its job, which is maintain balance. It's just one page with practices for causing the nervous system to calm down and to down-regulate those hormones of stress, so that you're not causing chronic illness and disease. So you're not switching on genes when you don't need to switch on genes that you were born with that give you, there's the potential for disease, and it's inside a gene. So if those genes are switched off, you'll never experience that illness. But if they get switched on, like mine did, which is now switched off. I've had it switch on and off a couple of times when I got COVID, and I had a long COVID. not as long as Tracy Spicer, for example, or many other people who are out there talking about it, but it switched the gene back on again, and I've just recently switched it off. Stress, the necessity of balance, these are not things I thought I would talk about, but I knew that they were important. But in this, I really talk about also the body-brain connection and the placebo effect on how we can create thriving. And it really has to be, I'm going to let my cat in, we have to decide what that is. And if you don't, you want to come? Okay. So if we don't decide what thriving means to us, then you could be like taking on stress without knowing it, taking out on problems and mulling them over in your mind and not even realizing that it's causing stress in your body. We could be overworking. We could be under fulfilling our sense of purpose and left with feelings of disappointment or boredom or frustration. You know, these are really important factors to design into your life, to sit down with a piece of paper. Do it now while we're on this call together. Sit down and decide. Look at all the areas of your life and make a decision about, you know, does that fulfill you? Does it satisfy you? I also talk about grief, how grief impedes homeostasis, and we must have grief, and grief is an important process. However, we've got to be consciously moving through grief. To stay in grief for decades is not healthy on the body, and it can cause things like inflammation, absolutely, which can cause arthritis problems. And then I talk about it's a naturopathic process, and it's a 4-step process to healing. And these are things that you can write down, you know, and it's restore, remove, and then add. So restore, adopting a mind of positive expectancy is really, really important. You know, if we're going through life and thinking, life's hard, I don't know if I have what it takes, things are not working out for me. If you have these sort of mantras, they become mantras. They become your thought patterns that we start to believe and live into. If your thought patterns are around disappointment or life's not working out for me, you want to turn those into a positive expectancy. And it takes time, I know, because I've had to do this myself, where I kind of thought, where's my breakthrough? When am I going to be successful? The kind of successful that I know that I'm capable of. Where's my breakthrough is what I used to think. And then I realized that I was entertaining disappointment was my go-to emotion. So I hadn't defined how I was going to thrive in life. I was just allowing myself to be at the whim of circumstances and feelings and thoughts. And then I defined how I wanted to be in life. And that was not thriving. That was just surviving. And it wasn't enjoyable, absolutely not satisfying. So I decided that for me to adopt a positive expectancy, I needed to sit and think about, it's inevitable. And like the truer truth is, it's inevitable. I put in all these hours towards my business. I'm doing everything possible. I'm upskilling. I'm out there speaking. It's inevitable. And then when I did that, it was interesting what happened, because I defined that that was going to be part of my life, that part of my life was being successful in my business and in my career as a speaker was inevitable. People were calling me up, surprise, surprise, and saying, hey, could you come and speak in schools? Hey, can you come and speak like at big organizations? I've spoken at Telstra, I've spoken at Vision Australia, I've spoken at Geelong Women in Business. I mean, like the list goes on. And that only happened because what happens when we start redefining what thriving means to us. So for me, it was positive expectancy. Yes, it's inevitable. It's just a matter of I'm a masterpiece in the making. I'm taking the steps. I'm moving through the journey. I'm learning the skills. I'm practicing. And it's interesting with that new shift, with that shift of a truer truth in my mindset, my God, the way I spoke was different. My content was different. There was totally, I mean, you have to just say it was really bold and positive compared to before, where it was kind of like passive, and now it was not passive, which is a whole different kettle of fish. And people read you differently, and people go, you're it. I want you. I'm going to book you. I need to work with you. Remove excess nutrients, toxins, pathogens, drugs, negative emotions, and invalidating thoughts. Add. This is my morning practice. This is my morning practice. What's missing that would make a difference? What do I need? Add whatever is missing that would make the difference to your well-being. For example, improve quality lifestyle. Well, isn't that mindset? Isn't that emotions? Isn't that everything that I was just talking about? And it's got to start with a healthy mindset. What else does my chapter cover? I do a little questionnaire where you get to discover your current state of your well-being. So there's 4 questions. Look, I wrote this a while, like 6 months ago, a year ago. I wrote this a year ago now. Self-fulfilling predictions, like the more I was disappointed, the more I was wondering where my breakthrough was. And that makes total sense, right? I share my daily practice in here, that morning practice, which is huge. And how long have I been speaking for? Okay, I won't stay much longer. I don't want to keep everyone much longer. But I invite you, and I hope you're doing it now, but to just define what thriving is, because we don't realize that we're surviving a lot of things. I was shocked. I do all of this work, and I was shocked to discover that I was still entertaining disappointment, because I kind of just thought, yeah, I'm disappointed, but I know that I'm going to be successful. No, I was disappointed, and I wasn't sure that I was going to be successful. And it wasn't until I processed that, and it wasn't until I went through my practice of, well, what's truer, that I was able to let go of that disappointment, wondering, can I? Am I? Do I? Do I have what it takes? I mean, I don't see the evidence. Like, there's evidence that I'm successful, but not the kind of, like, I'm not producing the results or the numbers that I wanted to. Like, I want to make a big impact. And then, those 90, good. Yeah, the morning and evening mindset program is amazing. I'm revisiting the program, Sandra, and I'm just going to make sure that all the questions are really still powerful. And there's a couple that I want to add in. And I had feedback from Sasha about the videos. She didn't want as much words or content, so I'm going to strip that back and make it really simple. Yeah, it is amazing. And then once I do that, I'll get out there and promote it again, because honestly, it's my practice and it's changed my life. But here's the thing. That's what I was saying. If we don't really put the microscope, the spotlight on our thinking and our feeling, there can be places where we're not thriving. There can be places where we really are surviving it, surviving those relationships, surviving that job that we're doing, surviving the people we live with, surviving the thoughts that we're having, surviving illness, surviving trauma that is following us along. So please don't survive. No one needs to survive through anything. It's a process, but you can define what thriving is for you. And then that puts you on the pathway towards that. That gives you the clear indication of what to do and where to go and what you're not going to accept. So I hope this was of value to you. And I'm going to go, and I'm actually going to do some writing. I've got a talk coming up that I'm delivering for a women's empowerment event. I've got 2, and they've got a day in between. I've got to do one talk for Rose Davidson and then one talk for Jutta Klepsch for her empowering women from leaving fear and having courage. So she interviewed me today. I think she's going to be popping that up this evening. She was going to edit it and put in an intro to it and pop it on social media. I hope you come to my book launch. I look forward to having everyone, all beautiful faces that I know. Thanks, Sandra. I look forward to all the fantastic faces I know. It means the world to me to have you there, because what you may not realize is how much you all mean to me. And when I sat, and I feel moved just thinking about it, when I sat and wrote this, and the first time I wrote it, I said, that's not it. That's not it. There's too much me in that, and this is not for me. And then I wrote it again and I said, that's still not it. And so I hired a developmental editor, Jill Marie, and I said to her, it was great. We spent one afternoon talking about what my intention was for the book. And I said to her, I have so many people in my community, and I know each of them. I know enough about them to care, and I've worked with them, and they matter to me so much. And it matters to me that this is something that they read and get something out of, and this is for them. And so when we work together, that was profoundly at the forefront of my mind when I'm writing, which story do I use? And I ended up putting in a story that at first I thought was self-indulgent, and she reminded me that no, people need to understand you and what you're capable of, therefore they know what they're capable of, or reminded or inspired to their own greatness, or they can look out, which has happened to me. I've looked out at other people and gone, oh, that's me. I get it now, why people say what they say about me. I can see it in that other person. So this is a really valuable chapter, and I truly am proud to share it with everyone. When you come to the book launch, you'll get the book. You'll get all the other fabulous authors. Every chapter is fantastic. And you'll also get a voice recording of my chapter, my bookmark, which is here. I'm an original, and this has actually got the heart thumbprint and the little crown, because the heart thumbprint meaning we're authentic, and the crown to always remind ourselves of how valuable we are. And that's actually from the Morning and Evening Mindset. I'm an original. So you'll get that in the book. You'll get a gift of a She Talks tote gift bag. You'll get a drink at the bar. You'll get 2 passes to comedy at the Rubber Chicken, which is amazing. There'll be lollies on the table. You'll have a wonderful evening, and I can't wait to see you there. Hey, Sandra, really lovely to have you here, darling. Look after yourself. Take care, everyone. Much love, much respect. Thanks for spending some time with me this evening. Hey, bye, everyone. See you soon. Bye. See you next Saturday, 7 p.m. Bye for now. Bye, Sandra. I'm going to wait till you say bye, and then I'll feel better. All right. I hope you look forward to seeing the interview with Jutta. Yeah. See you, darling. Bye, Sandra. Bye.